You ready? Alright. Look, dog, I'm extra unique. My whole aura screen telling me. Stop playing!
Welcome to Underrated Podcast. Dayon Dunlap here, of course, joined with the internationally known Shannon Shorter. But we have a special guest, Grammy-nominated, versatile entertainer, singer, songwriter, actor, toured with Prince, toured with Tyler Perry, numerous of achievements. Currently, I'm working on a few things that we'll get into, but none other than Ashley Tamar Davis.
Come on now.
I swear every time, like, when I do my podcast, I always need that sound somewhere. Just boop, 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 boop.
Okay.
Talk about you guys' relationship. Just off camera, it's organic and it's natural to kind of build backstory of how we got you here, sitting here today with us.
How we got you here?
I've known him because he's best friends with my brother Sean. Special shout out to Sean.
Shout out Shawnee D. Happy birthday, boy. I love you.
Happy birthday, Sean. And my brother doesn't like really take a liking to a lot of people. He's very complicated. And Shannon was always around. Shannon was always cool. He's always been handsome, just like cool to talk to, cool to hang around. Like I know his mom, know his brother. I mean, Shannon is literally family. Like the way y'all saw us talking when I first walked in, I have to talk to him crazy the way I talk to my brother, because that's the only way it's gonna like register. But I've known him since they went to Westside? No, Westside?
8th grade, actually. I met y'all in 8th grade.
What school did you go to? I didn't go to Westside.
No, you didn't. We played in a tournament at Welch, and y'all was there.
Sean went to Johnston. Okay, so then I guess I met him way back when they were in middle school. I don't remember that, but yeah. That's how long we known each other.
And growing up in Houston, at a young age, you were introduced into entertainment as far as singing. I saw some previous interviews where you said that you would just volunteer for certain things, and that's when you feel like your parents recognize that you can sing. But for you, as you reflect, when within that did you realize that you wanted to pursue a career in entertainment?
Great question, because there's layers to it. We'll get to what I'm doing now, but ironically what I wanted to do now, I wanted to do when I was a kid, which is it wasn't a singer. I just always had a big imagination. I went to schools that had great teachers. Shout out to teachers, because it's teachers who kind of give you the yardstick for you to see if you're going to pull and research and do the research. And at the time, I was in a grade school where the teacher, rest his soul, Mr. Charles Reinhardt, actually TSU has a building named after him. He was a very prominent pianist and like composer, and he was my teacher in grade school. And we were doing The Wizard of Oz, and the story was told to my parents that they were like, well, who wants to play this? Who wants to play that? Who wants to play this? And he was like, who wants to play Dorothy? And I shot my hand up and I played Dorothy. And at the time, you're too young, so you can't learn lines. So they had a narrator, and we enacted everything. I think I saw pictures, and like my sign said Dorothy, and all I had to do was enact the words. But then when it got to the songs, is when I would sing. And I think that's when my parents were like, "She has something." But I come from a family of educators. No one's in the arts, so they didn't know what to do with that. They just knew I had a gift, and then how it navigated from there was just my parents just kept putting me in competitions, and that's how my gift started developing. Okay. So I still didn't think it was a career, because I wasn't around people who were doing it as a living, so it wasn't an option. And it wasn't until I was in a girls group is when I started recording at 9 years old, 10 years old. And I was traveling, and I was recording in the plant in San Francisco. Still didn't put two and two together that it was a career. I didn't know that I would do it as a career until 2014 when I sang background for Tamia. And at this point, I'm 22, so you know, like I went to school, I went to USC, studied music business. I still did not put two and two together that I could make a living from it until 2014.
So you said you started traveling.
I'm sorry, 2004. Sorry, 2004 is when I knew I could make it a living. That's when I started. 2014. 2004 is when I was background singer for Tamia on the Verizon First Ladies tour.
Okay.
That's when I knew I could make it a living.
Okay. So you said at 9 and 10, that's when you started singing.
that's when I started like professionally singing, like on stage. I mean, I was singing before, but like when I was like in front of audiences, that's what I say is layers. Like when people are always like, oh, I started singing at 3 and then I was on the Mickey Mouse Club at 5. I'm like, I didn't have all that. In Houston, we don't have what Californians had and New Yorkers had. We just had competitions in the city, and I would do pageants and stuff like that. Like at, you know, and then by the time I got to high school, things just completely opened up because I would place gold and all the, like, there's a girl named Carolyn Owens who works at Amazon, and I just saw her in LA, and this gives you the best example of when I kind of knew I had something different. She was like telling people this weekend in LA, she was like, listen, if we saw her in a vocal competition, we did not compete, you know, because I kept placing golds in middle school, and then in high school, I became a presidential scholar in the arts, and I was flown to Washington, D.C. and performing at the Kennedy Center, and you're looking like, oh, you know, it's the Kennedy Center. And then you look at the Kennedy Center honors and you're like, I performed on that stage when I was 18, and some of these people are like big artists and this is their first time. So yeah.
So this is a twofold question. Looking back when you was 9, 10, singing, traveling, and etc., was this when you was a part of Destiny Child, not known as Destiny Child then?
So around 9 or 10 it was Girls Time, now known as Destiny Child.
Okay, so how do you feel about that now? And why did you exit the group when you exited the group?
So at the time, I mean, I'm the only girl, I have 2 brothers. At the time, I was really devastated. Like, I was sad, I was crying, but I do remember during the time, you guys are the first ones to know this, and I won't tell all of it because a lot of it's in the book that I wrote like years ago and trying to figure out when I'm gonna put it out. But my parents actually have a chapter in the book. And it was so hard for me to even be in the room when they were telling the writer about what they dealt with me being in the group. But it was a lot of just management. It wasn't the girls. It was just, you know, because everyone wants the best for their child. And I do remember it was just a lot of back and forth, like especially when Ann Tillman, God rest her soul, she was our manager. I just remember when she was alive, everything to me was great. But because she was getting on her deathbed, it was this whole tug and pull with who would be the manager. And at the time, Beyonce and I were the only ones who had father figures in our lives. Like the mothers were still, you know, married. So the idea from my parents' angle was 50-50. Matthew takes 50% management, my dad takes 50% management. And it just became like turmoil. And then it was hard at the time. I remember crying. That was like going into high school, and of course by this point I started to meet Prince, so I'm not thinking anything of it, right? But it wasn't until I got to college I was so excited to get away from Houston, to get away from the whole Destiny's Child, because at the time they're blowing up, and I'm happy for them, but at the same time I have this secret, you know, that I was in this group, and I'm like, okay, I wanted to stay that way. My cousin's Big Mouth on campus, freshman year, tells everybody who I am. People are running up to me, and I'm just like, that is when it really mentally just broke me completely down. I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I got to the point where if someone were to say, when did my faith, like really, when was my faith tested and I had to believe God for myself? Because, you know, I'm away from parents, I'm not going to church. That was my freshman year, and I just would break down crying, and I was like, God, and I get emotional every time I say this, I was like, if you have given me something that I'm supposed to do with this, I need you to really show me that it's from you. And I broke down. I remember I was in my bathroom, I broke down, I was curling my hair, and it was a Sunday, and I just moved to LA, just got acclimated. I wasn't at a church, like looking back, it wasn't about me going to church. I just needed a relationship with God. But at the time, I didn't know that's what I needed. I just felt I needed something, and I knew it wasn't just church. I needed a relationship. And lo and behold, I drove that Sunday. I went down Adams Boulevard, and I saw this church to my left on La Brea. And it wasn't a big church. It was a nice-sized church, but the parking lot was packed. And I was like, well, let me go in here. And my life changed for the better ever since. Like, it was Bishop McClendon's ministries. My entire life just literally shifted. My faith grew. I started singing in the choir, and then, of course, more stuff happened. But it was hard. Like, at first, it was like, oh, you're little. You're like crying, Mom, why? And she couldn't tell me why. And then by the time I got to college, it just like, and what's crazy is my mom and I have the better relationship maybe since about 6 years ago, because she finally told me why. And that's the part that I just cried, because your parents want to do what's best for you, but they want you to live out your dream. But it's like, at what expense? And my mom and dad are praying warriors. My mom had dreams, not to give it all away. I mean, she had dreams to the point where everything she saw in the dreams happen to the other girls after she took me out. So it was hard at first, but looking back, on one hand, you wish you were still in it and stayed a little longer, because you didn't know social media was going to be where it is, and you're like, dang, I want my followers to be more. But then my freedom and my peace.
Yeah, peace of mind.
I don't even know how to I could just talk all day about that because of what I know about some of the girls that's happening, and I'm not saying it's just like I'm better because I got out. Right. It's just no one can tell you how to feel about a thing until you go through it in a way that I went through it. And I can literally humbly say, like, God don't play about his kids, you know what I mean? And keeping his promises. And of course, history was made after that and who I worked with, but the process of like warding people off at school and can you sing for us? Can you? And it just was a lot. And I just remember like, I can't do this. Like, I thought I was going to come here and get away from it, and I actually ended up, dumping myself into it. So it was hard, though.
Kind of fast forwarding a little bit, going to your decision to go to USC, what was factoring into that decision, going to USC, and what did that do for you during your time in USC and in LA as you began to ascend during your time?
Great question. I graduated top 10% from HSPVA, and I've always been big on education, always. And I got accepted into like University of Miami, Northwestern, I think it was Syracuse, and I think University of Southern California. And the only reason why I went there is because of the scholarship package they offered me. It wasn't a full ride, they just had the best package. And of course it was LA. Oh, I got accepted to Howard. And my dad, I'll never forget, he was like, you are not going there. So that was out. And I knew I didn't want to go west or north because of the cold. That's really why I went to USC. Not because it was Hollywood. I don't think it hit me that it was Hollywood until, I think when I graduated and I started auditioning. But I wasn't auditioning or any of that during college. I was just like, I literally, you guys went to school. Joined the gospel choir, sing at church, but it was nothing more. I didn't think anything more about being in LA. Like some people are like, I went there for Hollywood. No, I went there strictly for school.
Okay. So when you say auditioning, what do you mean auditioning for?
So like people go to LA to pursue their dreams. I literally went to go get an education.
Okay.
I did not go, because I wasn't thinking this was a living. I just went to, study music business. I didn't even know what that degree was. It was like brand new. Colleges weren't even offering it. I knew I didn't want to go to college to, study vocal performance. I'm like, I'm not spending money to go have somebody teach me how to sing. You know what I mean? I did take voice lessons, which was the best thing ever. I love my vocal teacher, Vicky Muto. But yeah, I literally went for school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also referenced around the time when you were meeting Prince. I saw a different interview where you talked about how he became aware and received the demo with you on that. Tell our viewers about that, but also mention that time frame of when you met him and you guys began to build the bond that was to form.
Are you starstruck?
No.
Okay.
I was nervous, but I wasn't starstruck.
Okay.
So this story will be here for 10 years. The short end of the story is when I was 10 or 11, my cousin gave the demo at the time. I keep asking my mom to tell me what age I was. It was after Destiny's Child, Girls Time. So, and I remember it was my freshman year because I remember flying back to high school and people were like, how was Minneapolis? So I think it was my freshman year. So anyways, at the time, my cousin liked Morris Hayes. He's a very handsome man, so I get why she had a crush on Morris Hayes. And he played piano for him for 30 plus years. And so Morris, I would fly to Minneapolis to record with Morris. And then the demo, Morris gave to Prince. And so I flew out to Minneapolis, once again, 13, 14, freshman year of high school. And I didn't meet him, but I remember I recorded in Studio A, and I remember touring Paisley Park. I remember going into the vaults, and that's where the purple, motorcycle was, and it was like all these CDs. I remember doing a photo shoot. I remember being in meetings with paperwork, but I never met him. Okay, so that was then. So then fast forward to Tamia's tour, which was Beyonce was a headliner, Alicia Keys, Missy Elliott, one of the best shows y'all should ever see, Missy Elliott, and then Tamia. Tamia opened up. We just did like a 12-minute show, whatever. And there was a thing, like, I've always been the type of person, I just take chances. Like, I can read a room, I take chances. So Tamia was the only artist on the tour who had tracked performances, but she's like, Tamia, right? So every time we would come off stage, like, the audience was going crazy over her performance. I would be like, Tamia! And people were like, who is saying that? And at first I wasn't saying who it was, because by the time we're going off stage, it's dark, so you couldn't see who was saying it. They thought it was like a DJ, it was me.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, who is doing that? It's so dope. It's like hyping the crowd up. So people took a liking to my energy and stuff like that. And I stayed in contact with people. I'm always staying in contact with anyone I work with. So the choreographer was Fatima Robinson. She did Rock the Boat for Aaliyah. I mean, any of the biggest videos y'all see out, Remember the Time for Michael Jackson, that's Fatima. Special shout out to her. She wanted to stay in touch with me, and I wanted to stay in touch with her. And long story short, she invites me to a video shoot for an artist, but she doesn't tell me who it's for. And so I get there, I'm driving up the hill, Mulholland Drive, I'll never forget it, it's dark. I get there like around 11 p.m. We don't shoot the video, y'all, till like 3 in the morning. We're like sitting in this room like this, literally the pool house. So the pool is there and the house is over there. So here's the pool house, and there's all these dancers like who can dance, like Rico, who dances with Usher, just the who's who. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Y'all are like, I can dance, but I'm like, what am I in the room of dancers? So anyways, we go into the house, and it's smoked out, and I'm sitting on the couch like this, actually, and I'm sitting on the edge, and then there's camera crew everywhere. Mind you, I'm really just like, this is cool, And all of a sudden, they were like, action, and then there's this music playing, and da-da-da-da-da, and like 15 minutes go by, and they're like, all right, cut, that's a wrap. And I'm like, that's a wrap? I've been here this long, that's a wrap? And lo and behold, I feel this energy like literally walk past me. And I remember thinking, woof, like that. And then as the lights kind of come up, I looked to my right and it was Prince. And I was like, right? So I immediately think about the time I went to Paisley. So I'm immediately thinking, how do I let him know who I am? Because I'm like, I'm not going to be here and not let him know. Fast forward. This is so much, you guys. Fast forward to 2 days later, they called all of us who were extras in the video, and I'm like, I didn't do anything, but okay, to come back to his house on that Sunday to come to an after party for the People's Choice Awards, because he loved to put on house parties. And I was like, okay, I'll go. Long story short, it's raining, going up the hill. My mom is taking me. She's afraid of heights. As we get closer and closer, she's like, Ashley, I don't know if I can do this. Is there anybody you can call to come with you to this party? So I'm thinking, there's no way I'm not going to go to this party. So I call a good friend of mine. We go. Long story short, walk in the house. To the right, Prince is playing pool with people. And in front of me is Houston's own female drummer, Cora, which I know really well. Her husband is on bass, Josh Dunham. And then Frank McComb is on piano. So I was like, this is so cool. Like, I know Cora. Like, I know her. So I know I can go to her, and she's going to introduce me to Prince. So I'm thinking about all of this. So this is around midnight. 1 o'clock happens, blah, 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 blah. I go to the restroom. I come back out. Come back. Sheila E. is on the drums. Now, if you want to know if I'm fanning out, that's when I fanned out, because it's Sheila E. Like, Prince, Sheila E. So I was like, oh my God, it's Sheila E. So then this is around 3 in the morning. Party is over. Prince is at the door. And before people leave, they're just kind of saying thank you. And my friend is like, I'm going to say thank you for inviting us. I was like, I'm not saying nothing. But the way he looked on his face was very inviting. So I went up to talk to him, and then history was made. I mean, y'all, it's so much, but that, yeah.
So obviously he's not with us anymore. How did that affect you post that occur? Like, was that a very emotional time for you?
It's funny, I don't talk about it as much, and when I do, it's very, because when you worked with him, you just thought he was immortal. So when he passed, I was on Highway 6 near Elkins High School. I'll never forget it, where the Burger King was, where it used to be. And I just remember like, I just cried. I think I just stayed on the side of the road for maybe like 30 minutes. My best friend didn't live too far from me, so she came and made sure I was okay. And it didn't get better because you had all these outlets calling you, CNN, Extra, you know, and on one hand, spiritually, I'm like, what are the odds that all of these outlets are calling me? So I'm thinking about scriptures like he's going to keep you in front of kings and queens and your name out there. So I'm thinking that. And on the other hand, I'm like, this man is gone, you know? And I mean, to this day, like when I put out music or something, I really wish I could call him up and get his feedback, because he loved to listen to my new music, and he would call out of nowhere and be like, that guitar is amazing, who played that, you know, or something like that. So it was hard. And then just to see like my nieces in the world, and I can't have them meet them because they're always talking about Prince and Michael Jackson, and they're little, so I'm always fascinated to hear how they perceive these people that are gone. Like my 9-year-old niece is raving about Tupac, and I'm like, how do you know about Tupac? But they're fascinated with these people, and they're fascinated with fame, so they think I'm famous, and their friends think I'm famous, and you know, what would Prince say? And like, it's just like, oh, can I get away from it? And I'll never be able to get away from it. So, you know, it's hard. It's hard. And I hate when I see people comparing current artists to people like him and MJ. I'm like, it'll never be anyone like them, you know, and let Chris Brown or whoever have their moments. But Prince was just that dude, like, it's just crazy. Like, it's levels to it. Because even what I'm doing now, I'm like, wait a minute, I remember doing this with him, and I didn't know it was a job, and now I'm doing, like, that's when it gets like, wow, like, you know.
You were anointed the Prince protege and by many publications, and I saw an interview where you spoke about how that makes you feel, but talk to us about working with him. We just talked about how his legacy and how legendary he is, and how generations later they are in awe with him. And I reason with that because I have a 7-year-old daughter. She loves Michael Jackson. I mean, she knows the songs, she knows the moves from the videos. And so for you to kind of look back, tell me about what it was like working with him, and then talk to us about the tour that you guys went on, and how was that?
Well, God, I'm an emotional person. So working with him, I don't know, at the time I was wearing an afro. I was considered a chocolate curvy girl. Okay? I never got offended to that because I was like, okay, yeah, I got an afro, I'm curvy, you know. And he embraced it. He used to be like, my mom had a nose like yours, or, you know what I mean? Like, he embraced my naturalness, like everything I brought to the table, even the tour. He would be like, what cities do you want to go to? What order of the show do you want it to be? He made me and the twins choreograph the tour. Like, I brought in a friend, God rest his soul, Eric, and Prince was like, who is this? And I was like, that's my friend Eric. He's gonna help us, you know, choreograph. He was like, no, he needs to go home. He's like, you're gonna do it. Like, he was so stick about, like, you're gonna do all of this. You're not gonna go hire someone. You're not gonna pay nobody to do it. You have the gift, just do it. And that was the biggest thing that I ever, like, used, even to this day. Like, it's kind of hard for me to outsource stuff because I'm like, unless they're doing it the way I want to do it, I'll just do it, you know. And that's how he was. Like, and the tour came about, like, how did it come about? I think one day he was finished recording his album and I finished mine, and he was like, come to the office in the house. And I remember sitting in the office. He was like, and Prince is the type of person where he didn't push his agenda on you. He didn't push his ideals on you. He just would talk. And sometimes you'd be like, what are we talking about? This is an hour. What are we talking about? But once you started to lean into what he was saying, he was opening up this invitation. So eventually he would be like, so where do you want to go and tour and perform? And I'd be like, oh, you know, Miami, Chicago. And next thing I know, we have tour dates to go to these places. And then we would do 3 shows, and he'd be like, all right, so where do you want to go next? And I'd be like, well, I want to go to Houston and San Francisco. And he would do that, you know. It just, I mean, we'll be here all day with that. But that's, I mean, it was so dope to the point where we were getting ready for the tour. I hadn't seen my dad in a year because my mom came and moved with me. And he was like, do you want your dad to come? And I think it was just casually talking, like, I want my dad to come and see the show, blah, blah. And he was like, all right. Next thing I know, he's flying my dad to the house. And yeah, he came to one of Sean's basketball games in San Diego. Yeah. And of course, it brought on a lot of jealousy too, you know, and I never talk about that, but if I could, I mean, I still haven't even been invited to any of the tributes in Minneapolis. And it used to bother me, but now I don't care. Like, you trying to erase me from being a part of history? But people really got jealous of our relationship.
So you obviously you have prominent relationships with who you are, you know, the access you have with certain individuals. So how did you encounter Tyler Perry? What was that like being in his movies? Everybody knows Tyler Perry movies, Medea's and all that, and who he is as an individual and what he does for the black folk. How did that impact you with your encounter with him, and how did that elevate your mind, your mental space, as far as like where you could go, what you could become, and etc.?
And with that, to go piggyback off that question, tell us about the time when Prince surprised you with the tickets to the Madea Goes to Jail show.
Yeah. So things that are happening now, so I think everything happens in threes. So it's like I work with Prince, I work with Tyler Perry, and it's like there's something else pending that I feel is there, right? Because one of my spiritual advisors said something very interesting. He was like, Ashley, when you work with Prince, there must be a new portal of greatness that you have to achieve. Because once you work with Prince, and I never looked at it like that. I'm like, it's Prince. Like, who else could I work with? Quincy Jones, maybe? But Quincy hasn't been touring the way Prince was. So once working with Prince, it was like, dang, who else could I work with? And then here comes Tyler Perry. And you're like, well, what's next, you know? But when Prince surprised me because I used to hip him to all of Tyler's stuff. I used to be like, you gotta check this man out. And I used to be like, hello, you know, he'd be like, why do you keep saying that? And I was like, you never heard of Tyler Perry? So one day he was like, well, bring the DVDs over, let's just watch it. And I put in one DVD and he was dying laughing. Like, y'all would think Prince is like very like this. Prince is the most coolest, ratchet, uncle, ghetto, suave. Like he was like, he'd be like, what up? You know, like when he was comfortable with you, he was like real, you know, down to earth. So he would laugh at this, and I thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought he was going to be like, what is this? He actually fell in love with Tyler Perry stuff. And so Tyler was on tour, and if you've seen any of Tyler's plays, you know he has a motif where he does old school music. Well, now that I'm a music supervisor in TV and film, I can understand this now. At the time, I didn't. But you can't perform and do cover tunes by artists unless you clear the music. You have to clear the music. Tyler didn't do that because Tyler didn't know no better. And Tyler, you know, from New Orleans, so he really was like, whatever. So Tyler got to the point in the show where he was doing Purple Rain, and Prince called him and was like, hello, you need to stop playing my music unless you're gonna pay me. And Tyler basically was like, well, I can't afford you. He was like, well, give me tickets. That's how the story is, what I was told. So anyways, the tickets, he surprised me. After rehearsal, we always rehearse at the house in the ballroom. I had a change of clothes, put on something nice. The limo was there to pick us up. We pull up. We're going through the back way of the Nokia Theater, and I think it was Kodak at the time. We're going through the back way, and I'm like, where are we? So the show starts, and then I guess where all the celebrities sit is this row that has a space between like the people who get these really nice seats, like 8 rows, 5 rows, or whatever. So we're sitting on like the next best area. Well, really the best area. So anyways, we sit down and whatever, the show goes up, and then Chrissy Collins, one of the big mamas for Beyonce, her voice is just ignorantly sick. And it gets to this point where she sings Amazing Grace, and I look at Prince, I was like, oh my God, her voice is amazing. And then eventually Cassie Davis comes out and LaVan Davis comes out, and I'm like, oh my God, I know them. Like, one of my first plays in LA was with Cassie Davis and LaVan, and I hadn't seen them. So I'm like, oh my God. And then Tyler walks as Madea, and I was like, oh my God. The Prince is like, all right, you're going to get a little too loud and ghetto. I need you to scoot over one seat. So it was Prince, an empty seat, and me. He He was like, don't laugh too loud. So anyways, we have fun. He gets to the old school part and he strums the whole thing. And then, let me backtrack. So he gets to the old school part, and then I see this guy walk, like a PA walk with a microphone past me and hands it over to this person. And I was like, who is that? And I couldn't tell. And then next thing I know, they come and they hand it to Prince, and I was like, okay. So he gets to the part, and he was like, and then the lights go up, and all of a sudden you hear, I will love you anyway. Like, I just got chills, and I was like, oh crap, that's Shaka Khan. So Shaka's singing, the crowd is going crazy, and Tyler as Medea's like, all right, bring it back to me. And then he sets up Purple Rain. I'll never forget it, because at the time, Prince was not singing any of his old music while we were working together. And out of nowhere, he goes, never meant to cause you any sorrow. And I think I literally cried. And he sings it, and then as he gets to the chorus, he gets up and he sits next to me and he shares the mic with me, which meant I need you to harmonize on the chorus. And we sang Purple Rain together. And then after that, I met Tyler. I got a chance to say hi to Cassie. Cassie comes in. She's like, Tyler. If you know how she talks, she's like, Tyler, have you heard this girl sing? Tyler. If you ain't never heard her sing, Tyler. Like, he's like, all right, Cassie, all right. And 2 years later, I auditioned for Tyler because of Candace Walton, who I think she worked for the promoter. And she had carte blanche to submit names to read in front of Tyler, and I was one of those names. And I flew out to Atlanta. They flew me out. Tyler got all the money in the world, child. They be flying you out. And they flew me out, and I auditioned, and he was like, wait, are you the girl that was with Prince? I was like, yes, sir. And right on the spot, I booked the lead role in the Marriage Counselor. And that was my first project of 5 with them.
One of the things that I heard you also talk about was how people have told you how your voice makes them feel. And I heard you preface that answer by saying you've been focusing on spiritually how your voice reaches people. Talk to us about that and that journey, which you're realizing spiritually, how your voice impacts people and affects people from your observation, what you've been told throughout your career.
Yeah, I mean, like growing up, like I said, I knew I had a gift, but I didn't know what kind of gift. Like, you know, and I think today's music is missing the authenticity of people's journeys, and that's why you don't feel it as much. But I feel like because I've been through so much, like even when I sing a song, I'm not singing about anything. Like even on The Voice, like I made sure when they gave me options of songs to sing, I chose songs that had messages. I wasn't just about to sing about love making, like, because I feel like that doesn't minister to me. So how would it minister to other people? But it wasn't until like I started singing continually, like in high school, at church, and I would always get people coming up to me. It wasn't just like, oh my God, you sound good. Oh my God, that was great. It was always, you give me chills, and your voice made me cry. And that's when I knew like I had a gift, like an anointing. And I don't go around puffing my chest out about it, because even now, like that's why I don't let people just get it for free, because I used to just give it away for free. Like, oh, you need me to sing? Okay, I'm there. Oh, you need me? And I was like, wait a minute, like, no, you have to put a price on it. And so now I really take it even more seriously with even new music that I'm about to produce. And because I feel like it still shines through all genres, like jazz, you know, even funk. Like funk has a grit to it that comes from a real place that can move, you know, the energy in the room too. So yeah, I mean, I embrace it now, but before I used to get really, because people would get jealous. I don't think y'all understand jealousy. Like jealousy is a beast. Like the envy, and I used to carry that. Like, why don't they like me? Or why wouldn't they get in the competition? Or, you know, people would be like, are you auditioning for this? I have to get to the point where I can't even tell people that no more. I don't even tell people what I'm working on or who I'm working with, because you can see it now. I can see it now more. Whereas before I was so green and innocent and, oh, you know, I'm auditioning for this. And I mean, yeah.
Elaborate more on the jealousy and the colorism in which you face. You briefly mentioned on how you review as far as being a natural, and it's colorism basically to summarize. So talk to us about those moments, how you felt going through it and experiencing it, and as well as the jealousy that you received and probably continuously, especially with online now and trolls and etc.
It's funny, I don't receive it as much now, right? But I actually did a podcast. If y'all want to cry, it's probably a podcast y'all don't want to listen to. I finally interviewed the vocal coach from when I was in Girls Time, David Brewer, who now lives in Germany, an amazing opera singer. And I ran into him touring with Tyler Perry, and he tells me on my podcast, y'all, 2 years ago, I'd never heard of colorism until 2 years ago. He's telling me on my podcast things that were happening to me because of my color, as it pertained to that group. And I'm literally on my podcast crying. Like, what do you mean? I'm 9 years old. How is anyone jealous of me and my gift? And he's breaking it down to the point where I'm like, no wonder my mom had to take me out. You know what I mean? Because people really were just jealous. I was the girl that was known as the girl in the background with the big voice. Like, all the news articles would be like, okay, yeah, the group is great, but who is that singing that one line? Yeah, and it's like, what you mad at me for? I'm just a kid that can't even drive yet, you know? But colorism is very big in this business too, and it sucks because to me, some of the most beautiful people are just people who are genuinely nice, like, you know what I mean? But I experienced it without knowing I'd experienced it. And jealousy, the way it looks now is, even as a music supervisor in TV and film, people really are upset that I'm this accomplished artist who's a music supervisor. Like, how did you get here? Like, they'll say it like, well, what made you do this? Really? Yeah. Come on. Yeah, I auditioned for that project. You got that? And I'm like, yeah. Like, you're just like, wow. The way they preface things, you're like, people really are mad. Like, I didn't know you wanted Michael Che's show. Yeah. I didn't get that show because I know Adrian and Ali, and you know what I mean? I'm just going with the flow, and then I'm like, that.
How do you continuously rediscover yourself?
When I say
with the change in music climate, the way it goes,
that's the best question.
Continuously, like, rediscover yourself to stay.
It's gonna sound so cliche. It literally is prayer. Like, when I tell you, it just be like, y'all, when it's to the point where I can't make sense of the ignorance and I pray, I literally will have ideas. Like, I can hear the ideas and I will get up in the middle of the night and write down things. Like, literally, you know, like, even as a music supervisor, how I got to be a music supervisor was because I wanted to launch my nonprofit, and I was talking to a girl, and she somehow heard music supervision, and I got mentored by the head of ABC Disney. Okay. Right? I've never said that, but somehow she heard whatever she heard, and that's how I got in there, right? And ironically, the head of ABC Disney, Don Soler, wanted to train more black women. You know what I mean? So,
how important have your parents been in this journey from 9 years old to now? Obviously, I know them, pops, mama, that's what I call them. But from your vantage point, how important have they been in your process, your mental space, your learning, everything you've encountered? What is their importance?
They're everything. I mean, especially going through this process, I was always calling my mom. Like, if I cried, my dad is the one that takes the emotions, and he, you know, my mom is the one that's like, where's your faith? You know what I mean? She's the one that's going to give the scriptures. She's the one that's going to, but I can always reach them. And I didn't realize until I got in this business, not everyone had that. And that's what made me embrace it even more. Like, wait a minute. You know, people are looking at me like, your parents support this? I'm like, yeah, I thought it was normal. And I realized 99% of the people in this business is the opposite, right? My parents made sure I had a new car when I went off to college. Of course, the down payment was some of my scholarship money. Or, you know what I mean? But my mom did not. And I don't get how parents are like, at 18, you gotta go. My parents are the total opposite. Yeah. They like, I don't care what happens. You better not go live on nobody's street and nobody's couch when we're here. Like, and that's what they instilled in us. So how could you not know, like, they got your back, you know what I mean? And it wasn't easy. My mom and I had a lot of friction, but they're like everything to me. I moved back to Houston because of them. You know what I mean? I wanted to see them get older. I wanted, they're 70. I'm like, that's a blessing. You know what I mean? So they've been everything. To this day, my brothers, they call them. You hear my mom, Sean, do this and do that. We always have had our parents to lean on. And if we couldn't reach them, they call us. Sean will blow up my phone. Yeah. Even if you don't come out and say it, my parents can sense, and they've always been there. Some people say it's a safety net. I don't see it as a safety net. Safety net is, I don't want to do nothing with my life. I just want to stay with them or just leech off of them. No, they are not a safety net. They are protectors on this earth, until God calls them home. And they have just been, that's my mama calling now.
See how the universe works?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's her calling now. But yeah.
Speaking of your mom, I saw where you said she also inspires you to give back. Talk about how she inspires you to give back, what she's done in giving back, because I also know you guys are soil growers, part of Delta. I'm a new. And so kind of elaborate more on that and the importance of having that solid foundation of parents. I think it's overlooked and people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, I keep telling my mom she needs to do her own book from the standpoint of being a mother of a celebrity or whatever, and from the educational standpoint, because he'll tell you, she will have you rolling. Like things she sees at the college she's at, she's very motherly. Like you may get mad and offended, but if she didn't say it, who else would tell you? She's that type of person. She's not gonna let you go into a pit. If she sees that you're about to go into a pit, she's gonna say something. Now how she delivers it is a horse of a different color. But because my parents are very, very adamant about education, we started nonprofits initiatives like the College Career Empowerment Summit. It was both of our brainchild by us talking about what she noticed in college and what I noticed in the arts. I do more the creative stuff. She brings a more educational arm to it. But she doesn't have that much time to do it as much as I do. But they do have a nonprofit about career development and training, because at the collegiate level, she's still baffled. She's like, why are these kids coming to my office and they still don't have the basics or the soft skills? And she's very passionate about that, like very, very. And my dad is career case management. He loves to help people on disability and people incarcerated. So my family is serious. And my brother's a baseball coach at Kincaid, it's in our blood. Like we're not gonna let you be in a room with us and you don't know something. We're gonna let you pretend like we don't know the answer. Like my parents have been that way all the time. Like you need faith, you need prayer, you need scriptures, you need a homie. Like that's just who they've always been,
Over the time, who or when did you realize the importance of maintaining relationships and networking? Go throughout the time as I hear you talk about all these different people that you met, and one thing that I can realize is that's networking and establishing good relationships within the profession that you are in.
Great question. I've always been the type of person that stays in contact with people. If someone crosses my spirit, Shannon will tell you, I'll just hit him up. Hey, Shannon. When people follow my heart, I'm going to email, I'm going to text, or I'm going to call. No one had to tell me to network. I'm not going to be in a room with Quincy Jones and not go say hi, right? I'm not going to be in a room with Ava DuVernay and not go say hi. I'm not going to be in a room with Michael Che, even though he and I never met, and have been his music supervisor, and not go say something. I'm not, right? So, and I tell people in my master classes to this day, you cannot not talk. If you don't talk, it is on you that you missed out on the opportunity. And I actually did a town hall meeting with women in the business because women in particular, this may be a little bit too TMI, but if I could be real gully.
Oh yeah.
Women in this business, especially black women, and I know we are tired of hearing about it because I never really talked about color until I got in the music supervisor position, and it is a white male-female industry. It wasn't even discussed before the pandemic. Now everybody wants to be a music supervisor. You feel me? And so when you get in there and you don't look like them, that is an issue to some of them because you weren't supposed to know about it in the first place. Okay. So for me, access is more prevalent now than before. I never talked about it. It wasn't an issue for me. When I auditioned, I was like, God, you got it, I'm out the door. If you didn't choose me, I wasn't tripping about that. I felt like I was meeting more casting directors. That's another casting director who knows my gift. That's another one that knows my gift. Okay, I what, blah, 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 blah. And I just stay in touch with people because timing is everything. So if you don't get in there and use that time today, how did you use today? Did you email someone? Did you follow someone in your industry? Did you contact them and say, congratulations on that new placement in the show? But you have to extend yourself. And I go back to the opportunities. Black women have been so labeled, or especially black women artists used to be so labeled as opportunists. But I'm in a room with all these people. How would I not go take the opportunity to go say hi? Like, don't call me an opportunist. I literally took advantage of the opportunity. So, to this day, but what's interesting is now that I've accomplished all these things, people actually don't return calls and stuff at all more now. It's more frustrating now because I'm like, I just saw you last week. Why are you not? Did your cat die? You know what I mean? And then when you see him, like, oh my God, I've been meaning that.
Right.
So now it doesn't affect me anymore. Like, long as I've done my part, cool.
That's it. What would you tell your younger self? It's like, because I know you said you didn't see yourself singing until you was on tour with Tamia and etc. Back up, singing with her and etc.
Well, there's three answers to that. As a woman, I would tell my younger self, take your emotions out of it.
Okay.
As an artist, I would tell myself to have saved up even more money, because as an artist, you're contracted a lot, and I didn't know much about taxes, like 1099s, W-2s, and mainly a lot of artists to this day are broker than ever because they're not saving and they don't know things about IULs, trusts, putting 30% aside. That's why you see a lot of these big artists having issues with the IRS. Not me, but I'm just saying that's what I would have told my younger artist self. And as a, what's left? Artist, female, what's left? That's it, right?
Actor.
Ooh, this is a good one. As an actor, I would have told my younger self, I should have just stayed natural. Because what happened was when I used to try to look like what I thought they wanted, they shifted right back to just casting all natural black women. And when I had these conversations, TMI, I talked to a lot of people and I said, watch this, and I will say it and it would happen. If you look at a lot of TV shows now, you're rarely seeing black women with permed hair and They're more curvy. They're actually thicker than the main characters. They have natural hair. They're not the best on the eyes all of a sudden. And I was like, watch. And I've heard a lot of my black actor girls say the same thing. If they came in there looking better than the Caucasian lead, they weren't casted.
Yeah. What do you think?
Like, it's real out here. Like, it's real.
What do you think started that shift?
I have my ideas because I'll never forget it. I remember walking into an audition in LA. It was 2002. I graduated. My mom was with me. I'll never forget it. And this casting director said, you surely are just the most adorable little thing ever. She says, but can I be honest? I said, yeah. She said, they're going to start casting black girls with natural hair. I'll never forget it. Even with the voice. Like, I used to think I had to go in there and look right. And they were actually going to the people that looked like they just rolled out of bed. Because they wanted to have autonomy to show your transition from looking this way to this.
Right.
And I came from the era where, like, Beyonce, if you look at all the old footage of Beyonce and LaToya and all of us, we were fly from the time we left the house because that's what our parents taught us.
Yeah.
You know, you're a walking resume. Don't leave this house. What you got on? Like, even to this day with my nieces, my mom be like, what is that you have on? All that cute stuff. How about you? What you got there? You know what I mean? That's what I came from. And if I could tell my younger self, is like, you keep being you. Like, one more story, a funny story. Yolanda Adams might get mad at me, but I don't care. So Prince and I were getting ready for the BET Awards. We were at Soundcheck the day before. One of the best shows to this day, hands down. And we were at rehearsal. And Prince, if you know, always came out like this, clean. Yolanda Adams said, Prince, she didn't say Prince, I think she said, man, you always look this nice when you leave the house. And I think she had on just like jeans and a cap or something. And he was like, yeah, isn't that how you always leave the house?
Straight like that.
Hey.
Straight like that.
He didn't play. Like, this is who I am. Every time you see me, it's like this. And that's what I take away from who I am now.
Tamar, I greatly appreciate you.
Yes, this is
One last
fun.
question. If you can have anybody hop on the pod, who would you like to see?
Ooh. Dang, that's always hard because you work with Prince. You're like, who else could I want to talk to? Janet freaking Jackson.
Janet Jackson.
Janet
You gonna help us
Jackson.
get that?
Oh yeah, we got to get y'all Janet. We got to figure it out. Athletically though, I would like to hear from CJ Stroud, PJ Tucker. Y'all gotta get Sid on here, crazy Sid. Y'all gotta get Sid.
Yeah, we gotta see it next
Yeah, get Sid.
That gotta be an in-person.
Yeah, y'all gotta get Sid in person. I don't know. Coach, the chick that's fly on the sidelines, Carter.
Sydney Carter.
I would love to hear from her.
Okay.
It'd be dope to hear from like a female ref. It'd be dope to hear from someone like that.
Okay.
That's it. Cause I met the beautiful girl that's a sportscaster on ESPN.
Malika Andrews.
I think so. I met her this year at the Grammys. She was so cool.
Okay.
But that's what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, we appreciate you for joining us. Tell our viewers where they can find you, all that you have going, and be sure to like and subscribe.
AshleyTamar.com. That's where everything is. Like everything.
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 Greatly appreciate y'all.